when you realize that you're called to do something, the resources come. For me, it's spiritual. It's God breathed. And so I needed a lawyer. And I was at the bank at Hopkins one day. I had already left Hopkins. I was at the bank because I have the credit union there. And every time, I kid you not, except this last time, I go to the bank. My boss is no longer, Ralph is no longer at Hopkins either. We run into each other and we talk. And I was saying, he said, how's changing destinations coming along? I said, the challenge I have right now is I need a lawyer. And how do you find that? Well, there's the Community Law Center, the nonprofit organization, and I went to some training there. He said, Charles is a nonprofit lawyer, Rose, and he was one of our first students when I was at Hopkins in my first year. He said, call Charles. I called Charles. Sasha and I started having lunch with Charles. Let's take you to lunch. So we started taking Charles to lunch once a month. And he was feeding us information. He was reading our 501c3. And step by step, he'd say, have you done this? Do you know what a 990 is, et cetera? No, I have no idea. And then he just said, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to write. And then, have you developed your board? You know, one of the greatest challenges that a number of nonprofits, since I've gotten into this, have said, how do you find board members? You know, where did you get them from? Well, I prayed over them. But I also had friends that you look at skills, you start writing down, what do you need? What are your needs? So I started writing down what my needs were. And then you have people who buy into what you're called to do. And then you find like-minded people, you network, and you talk, and you talk, and you talk, and you talk until you're blue in the face. Especially when you go to church, you don't want church to be about business. But you find so many gifts in your church community or in some of the things that you're doing, and before you know it, you go, aha, she does so-and-so, she's in real estate, she has this gift, she has that gift. And as you talk more and more, people don't know what you're doing if you don't say what you're doing. That's the hardest thing. Yes. I'm from South Carolina, and so I won't call it low self-esteem, but I'm quiet. I've been taught to be demure, submissive, etc. Not submissive though, but I've been taught that you're supposed to just listen to other people, respect other people, etc., and listen to what they're doing. You already know what you're doing, but you don't know what they're doing. Right. But then you have to learn how to speak. You have to learn how to talk about what you're doing. Because the more I did that, whether it was in Sunday school or whatever, people began to ask questions. They began to pray for you. They began to network with you, and they began to say, hey, you need to connect with her. Did you know that he's doing so-and-so? And before you know it, I realized that, there are all these great people in my church community. I mean, they're judges, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're Ernie Green, who in civil rights is an icon. And I ended up going with him to North Carolina, so where he spoke. And I began to do that with different people. So then you begin to do some of the things that they do, you have to, in order for them to do some of the things for you that you need done. And it is hard work. Some days I'd give up. I'd say I'd give up, but you couldn't give up. Some days I lost focus, and Sasha said not to talk about her, but Sasha would say, you need to focus. You need to focus. You don't get involved in what's going on at work. You need to be working on this, so this works for you. Do you want to lead this job?
I love it. I love it.
Yes. So it's focusing. It's writing down, it's step by step. It's looking at what's already in the community, going to those organizations and seeing what they're doing. What's the shortage? What's the need? Is that need being fulfilled? What gifts do you have that really aren't being used in the community? You know, no matter what people tell you, whether it's the CFO of education in Anne Arundel County, which is where I wanted to start because that's where I lived. And I just knew I was going to help students in Anne Arundel County, but you start meeting with people and they go, been there, done that. There are all kinds of mentoring programs. So discouragement, discouragement, discouragement. So you start writing things on your bathroom mirror. I can do all things. You start singing